Today, we are so excited to talk to certified dog mom extraordinaire, Chrissy Joy. Chrissy Joy is a seasoned dog trainer, and her troupe, the Joy Crew, have been featured on a ton of TV shows. You may know Chrissy Joy as host of The Dog Moms on DogTV and host of the popular The Dog Moms podcast. And today, Chrissy joins us from Solomon's Island, Maryland. Chrissy, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's so great to finally meet you. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, are you a Maryland girl, as in Maryland born and raised, or have you just found your way there?
I didn't start here. I actually grew up in New Jersey, and I traveled quite a bit before ending up in Maryland. And this is actually where my husband got his job when he got out of the military. So we live really close to a military base, and he gets to work on really cool jets while I train dogs.
Oh, that's so cool. I actually grew up in Maryland. That's why I ask. And I feel like anytime I meet a Marylander, we just bond like
Wait, where did you grow up? Where did you grow up around here?
I actually grew up in Hanover, Harmons, not too far from BWI Airport,
Yep.
hon.
That's a nice area.
Gotta put the hun in there, right?
That's right.
Oh, well, we like to start in the beginning at Dog Mom News. So I want to know, Chrissy, where did your love for dogs come from?
That really began as a very young child. I had a natural passion and love for animals. And that was apparent as soon as I could talk, walk, or crawl. I was collecting stuffed animals. I wanted to see all the animals. It was very natural for me. It only grew to more of a passion and lifestyle when I was probably around 8 or 9. I realized that animals weren't just something that I loved, but it was something that was actually really big for my mental health. And that's because I had a lot of anxiety as a young child. And we don't really know the why of that and why it started, but it did. And it made it really difficult for me to do basic activities that you would love to see children thrive in doing. I was really pulling back and not wanting to leave the house and all this stuff because my heart would race, my hands would sweat, and I would think I was going to get sick. But what was a saving grace is that I had a beagle at home, finally got a dog, and I would train her. And I wouldn't read books, or I wouldn't run to YouTube. There was no YouTube to run to, but I would just start teaching her tricks or going in my front yard and building little agility equipment. And that was my getaway moment as a child, where I didn't feel anxiety. I felt great. And I learned pretty quickly that animals were more for me than just something that I loved. They were definitely something that was a connection deeper than that.
That is so sweet. I mean, to think that that gave you something to occupy your mind and thoughts and build confidence, and then build trust and a relationship with your animal, which is so beautiful. I feel like so often that bond with our dogs, it's therapeutic, and that's obvious in how your dog helped you so much.
It's so true. It's exactly what it was. And I think my parents were at a loss. They really didn't know what they were going to do, to how to help me. But that was one area that I found my confidence in, even when I had trouble attending school. And what grew from there is that I came up to my mom and dad and I said, I want to ride horses, because that was another avenue of working with animals and being with animals. And I felt ready to take that step to go to a barn, right? That's away from the house. That's a big deal for me. And I fell in love with riding horses. And then my passion for animals kind of just kept growing, and the confidence kept growing from there as I kind of kept them in my life throughout my younger ages.
Oh, such a beautiful story. And I love how all of our experiences build and kind of take us to where we are today. And speaking of your journey, in your journey as a dog trainer, how did you actually develop your unique approach to communicating with dogs, especially considering your emphasis on unspoken cues and then also body language? How did all that come together?
I think people usually ask me, they say well, where did you go to do dog training? Where did you, what school did you graduate from? And I'm I didn't. I went to college for horses and training. So I was a rider. I did all the courses for riding and learning and breeding and grooming and all the things, to the business side as well. And I kind of just played around with training dogs when I was a little girl. So there was a pretty healthy gap between my Beagle to all the horse years I had to when I actually adopted my first dog, Beasley. That kind of brought me back into the dog training world. I will say that I do believe that the horse training did give me some natural understanding for dog training. There's a lot of similarities there, based on your body pressure and how animals respond to that, and how you can kind of help dictate an animal in a room by the things that you do affect them, and vice versa. So that was really helpful just on the get-go of understanding dog body language. Another thing is that when I got Beasley, I started training at a local training facility in Brandywine called BFF Pet Services. And all I wanted was a well-trained dog, because don't we all want that? Like, you get
Of course.
and you're just like, I just
Yes,
want
please.
to stop jumping on people and don't pee in the house. Like, these are
Yes.
basics. So I went to class for that. But what happened is that, as the class was over, I'd be like, Psst, what are we learning next week? And they would tell me, and I would just go home and like just start fiddling around and doing it. And then by the next class, I'd be like, yeah, I already got it. Like, we're good. So they actually approached me like in the middle of class or towards the end, and they were like, have you thought about being a dog trainer? Because you would be really good. And I was like, I never considered that. But right now in my life, because there's a lot that I've done, that's a whole other story. But, I was like, that's something that I think my heart is pulling me back to. And so I did, through the guidance of BFF, join kind of their internship a little bit and start teaching classes pretty quickly.
Wow, that is such a neat story. Talk to us though about the transition, from horses to dog training. Did you face any challenges in particular? I mean, the 2009 recession had to be a big challenge.
Yeah, that's when I graduated, was in 2009, which is hard because you graduate with an equine major right when people are pulling from their recreational activities, and horses and horse racing and all of that are considered recreational activities. So when people are getting tighter on their wallet, they're not spending their money there. And it also gives people who are able to work cheaper, basically they will be able to go in and get the job that I need. So me needing to pay for an apartment in Kentucky where I was living at the time, I needed a certain set of money, but there were people that were able to work a lot less and have less cost of living that were able to kind of scoop up those jobs that I otherwise would have loved to have. I did work for the World Equestrian Games in 2010 in Lexington. It's like the Olympics for the equestrian games. It was wonderful. But as soon as that event was over, everything closed and they were moving on to France for their next Olympic show and event. And that was something that they weren't looking for US workers. They're going to go and get, people from France to help them out. So I didn't have a job. So I actually worked at Amazon in their returns department for a while, just to make the bills. And so, yes, the transition was challenging. And I will say at that time, I was juggling not just training and trying to be in the equine world, but at the same time, I had such a passion for TV and film that I was actually doing acting for commercials and movies and things like that as well, that were sparing, but also a big passion of mine, because as you can imagine, a child with anxiety, staying home a lot, I watched a lot of TV and film and fell in love with production.
Oh, that is so sweet. And I love that you didn't give up. You didn't give up, Chrissy, when it was tough.
Yeah.
You had that passion in your heart and that resiliency that really you need to be successful. So how did you end up incorporating dogs and the dog training into your acting and TV experience?
Sure. So I did many years as an actress in New York City and around the country as I kind of hopped around places, didn't know where I wanted to be. Kentucky had a great tax break at that time, so lots of films were happening out there. But what happened for me was that when I got Beasley and I was in that training facility, and now I'm in Maryland with my fiance, we're about to get married, right? All these wonderful things. Beasley had like really, really changed my life. So before I adopted Beasley, I was starting to feel all this anxiety come back. I hadn't done the horse world in a while. The acting wasn't panning out. Now I'm in Maryland. I don't know anybody. Like, everything was starting to come to a head again, just like when I was a child. So when I got Beasley, which was for no other reason than to have a dog, no idea we'd be doing this. It was an immediate change. It was like a light switch. It was just like when I was with my dog, Angie. Like, the anxiety was gone. I had a purpose. And so when I started training him, he worried me a little in the beginning because I was like, oh, he's not picking up on any of this stuff. I was like, whoa, you know, I picked
Oh,
the one
boy.
wrong one, picked the one
Yeah.
wrong one out of the litter, and the rest.
He's like,
No,
I'll
but
show you, Mom.
right. And he became a champion trick dog pretty soon after.
Wow.
But he also showed a lot of skills that I was like, holy cow, life is so full circle sometimes. I had dreamed about working dogs on set since I was a little girl, watching Wishbone or Homeward Bound or, you know, all those Air Bud, whatever it was. Even Gray Man in the Flannel Suit, like all those old horse movies too that people don't really know about. I was like, wow, I have a great dog now. And I really missed production because I had stepped away for a while. I really, really missed production. And so I said, you know what? This is something that I would love to revisit, but I'm revisiting in a healthy way, because the reason why I left production, I kind of steered away from acting, is because being a 20-something-year-old in the early 2000s, it was very, very much, how much do you weigh? What do you look like?
Oh,
You know, like you're just
so
being
unfortunate.
compared, and you're a dime a dozen. And it was really bad for my mental health. And so
Yes.
that's where I stepped away. And I'm sure you feel like that too, because you probably have similarities in the industry that you feel sometimes.
Absolutely. And then as a woman, you know, you just feel that pressure, whether you're on air or not, you know, when you're on
Right.
social media and all the people perfect and plastic. And guess what? We don't live in a plastic world. We live in a real world. And I
It's
love that you're
true.
so vulnerable and honest and willing
That's
to
right.
share your true self with people. That's what we need today.
And that's how I felt about it, is that I feel that when I came back with Beasley on it, I was like, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to do this as me and not try to be something I'm not or put myself in a box. So I contacted my human talent agents and I said, where do you go when you need a dog? And now we had Facebook and Instagram and social media, and they dropped a few names of places. And I think what was the biggest thing for me is when I reached out to these agencies, because we all know how hard that can be. If you're in the industry, you know, it's like you sweat because you're like, oh my gosh, you're never going to look at me. My resume's crap.
Sure.
But to be honest, because I had such set experience already, that I also proved that my dog was very talented and good in public places.
Yes.
They gave me opportunity, and it was really like the way through that door. And then we just did really well in the first few jobs, and it kind of is word of mouth after that.
That is incredible. And you know, your career has spanned from trick training to working on production sets that we've been talking about. Describe for us the journey, particularly how Beasley's success as a champion and really his depth of experience, how much he's done, how that actually intertwined with your return to the production world. How did all that come together?
You know, it was so relieving to be on set and not on camera. And I say that's me like 5 years ago saying this. And I was like just not ready to be on camera again. And so I love the fact that I could now play behind the camera, but I was still making an integral piece of content with something in front of the camera, and that was my dog. And I was able to be on the project in a whole different way. This was my expertise on set. So people were looking to me for guidance of how to get the dog to do the thing and how to make it all look happy and good. So that was a whole different ballpark game for me, was to now work with the crew more than ever before so that we could all be on the same page of what needed to happen. So I really loved coming back into it in a whole different dynamic versus coming back into it as me being straight up talent and the pressures that go with that. So I loved being behind the scenes and still helping my dog have success on set while I'm constantly learning how to work in these new experiences, because I swear every set teaches you something.
There you go.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of time that I actually missed being on camera. And then that's kind of where DogTV came into play.
There you go. Now, with your extensive experience in dog training and as a dog mom, what advice do you have to other dog moms who are maybe struggling to balance their passion with self-doubt or feelings of inadequacy?
That's a great question. You know, it's, I think that people need to understand that that is part of the process. I think people feel these ways and they get discouraged, or they reach a low, or they have a super high and then it starts to fall off, and they don't realize, and they get really hard on themselves and they start to beat themselves up or realize they can't get to it or too many doors closed. But I think what people need to realize is like that is part of the natural process to any journey that you're going to take. Like learning the business cycle. Do you remember the business cycle? Like back in school, you learn about like, well, there's recession and then and it goes just like this.
Yes.
And it has to do that. Like you cannot operate at 100% all the time, always, always. That's not natural. So you have to understand, like, I'll be honest, a couple weeks ago in the pits of December, holidays, everything slows down. And definitely felt like I was in the low there, but I made some healthy changes and I just was patient with myself, gave myself extra rest, really tried to sort my priorities. And I feel like I'm climbing up again, which is perfect timing for the new year. But I think people forget that you have to give yourself grace and you have to be honest with your expectations and you have to realize that this is all part of the process.
Yeah, you mentioned giving yourself grace, being kind to yourself. I mean, we a lot of times in life have a lot of spinning plates and we're trying to keep everything together, right? How do you balance everything? What is it that you keep going back to? You mentioned the grace element, but how do you keep everything in balance and in check in your life? What advice do you have for us?
I think one of the most important things that I learned was, and I'll tell you, this really helped me when I'm balancing a lot, if not a little too much, is always finish something you've got started. So, and that's in little things, and I swear it'll help you. Like if you're washing the dishes, dry them and put them away. Like finish what you got started, because when you leave these things halfway done, all of that starts to pile up and create chaos for you. And that includes the half-written email or, whatever it may be for you, like sorting the mail and you got halfway through it, like finish it. I believe in that because it's those tiny details that start to bleed into your progress in every area of your life. And another thing is that, although I would have fought this a month ago, protect your sleep and protect your workout. Like make sure you do work out or get yourself moving. It's huge in providing yourself energy and it's huge in your mental health. It actually will give you more energy in the end and you may not feel it in the beginning. So when I'm balancing, when I'm balancing all of these pieces, of course my big priorities are I vision it as like a pie chart. Those are huge chunks that these things have to get done. That includes my brand partnerships, working towards set work and whatever is needed there. And of course, exercising and training my dogs. And then family is right there. And then all those little tiny slices are kind of all the other little things. And I realize, I don't know, do you do this? If I have something big to get done, I'll vacuum.
I love vacuuming.
Right?
Instant gratification. Oh yeah, I'm going to conquer this dust pile right here. Get out of here, dust bunny, whatever it is.
But I'm totally procrastinating. Right. And so just being better about your time management and listen. If you need an off day, take an off day. Don't feel guilty for that off day.
That's right. And I also keep a running list of what's top priority and, sticking to what's most important. And my list kind of reads down. And I love what you said about get it finished before you move on. Because next thing you know, time gets away from us, right? I'm amazed at how much 10 minutes can just go boom, if we're not aware of it, but really just tackling one thing at a time, like you said. Otherwise, you have all these unfinished projects and it's just it can really give us a headache, that's for sure. I'm going to pivot, Chrissy, to the pandemic. It was a hard time. And it was a hard time for a lot of us. It was a hard time for those who suffer from anxiety and for those who don't. I mean, so much unknown, so many changes in our world, so many people adopting dogs, right? And then trying to figure it all out as they went. And I think a lot of people had access to the internet, maybe could pick up a tip or a trick here and there, but then reality sets in and people start going back to work and all of the things, and dogs are home alone more. I'm just wondering how this has affected, you personally in training and kind of some of the impacts that you've seen coming out of that time.
A lot of people did adopt dogs during that time. Shelters were actually being emptied, which is something that you never really hear of, which was so amazing at the time. But then what we saw coming out of it is that when people returned to work, a lot of dogs had separation anxiety and all these issues because they weren't exposed and they didn't get to have socialization. And so they took this dog, brought it inside, weren't able to do much with it exposure wise. And then 2-3 years later, they're wondering why they can't walk down the street without it barking at everything. So Yeah, so there's a lot that came out of that for sure. I'd say for dog trainers, a lot of people tried to do online courses and try to move their training to online. I know we dabbled in that, but the problem is like it just became so saturated that no one was really making good money because everyone was selling and trying to lower their prices against each other. And so it was really a tough industry to like be in and make money at all. I will be honest, I was pretty grateful to like have more time at home because I'm always traveling generally. And so I was kind of grateful to stay home. I will say though, I made a big change because, you know, productions didn't want to hire you if you were out of state. You had to like prove that you were healthy before you came into New York and things like that. So, you know, me coming from Maryland was really not appealing to many productions that were in New York, Philly, and Boston, anywhere else. So what I did is I said, okay, well, if I sell my SUV and I buy a van and I deck that van out that I could potentially sleep and live in, you know, is that kind of like the loophole to hopefully keep getting work? Because if I need to sleep somewhere, I won't stay at a hotel and I'll just stay in the van.
Right.
And that actually worked really, really well because they were like, well, that's a good point. You're not staying in hotels, so you're not getting all that added exposure. I wear gloves at the gas station, masks everywhere, you know, and so that change I made helped me continue working through COVID, and they were still working. It was just, there was so many red tape steps you had to take. You had to test. I had to test in Maryland. Then I had to test before I got on set, like days before. And then I got to test on set. And then I had to test before I left just to make sure I wasn't sick bringing anything back. It was wild. My nose was so sore.
Oh, I know. And we learned so much from it. I feel like hopefully we all grew as humans, you know, and that we learned life is fragile, right? It's to be cherished. And I love how you mentioned that time at home and emphasis on family. I'd see kids out with their parents at night, walking and having more dinner together more regularly. And we experienced that. There was a lot of joy in it, but boy, there was a lot that we hope we never have to live again.
It's so true.
I love your resiliency and also how you were so smart and coming up with that idea of like, okay, I can go on the road and I can stay, you know, in the vehicle or just work it out.
And you know, if you don't stay relevant or stay active in it, it's like having your own small business. If you don't do the work, it goes away. So I really wanted to find a way to keep doing it in a safe manner. But also I'll be honest, I know a lot of people had hardships and businesses go down and all that. And it's really sad. And it's not something I really ever wish on anybody, but I did enjoy being home with my family more. I was pretty happy.
Of course. And I want to talk about the show, the Dog Moms on DogTV. You know, tell us about it. It seems to be a really unique venture. I want to know like what inspired the show. I know this is a bright spot for you and maybe how it's different than some of the other projects that you've taken on.
This came at a perfect time in my life because I had been behind the scenes for quite a while working my dogs on set, many productions, and I really loved it. But I was secretly getting antsy that I was like, man, maybe I want to get back in front of the camera because I want to get back in front of the camera as me today, not as the girl who was easily influenced, trying to do whatever it was to be somebody. I was like, I want to come back as me. Like, this is me, take it or leave it. So I was itching behind the scenes to do that. No idea that when I went on set for DogTV, because they had a casting call to get dogs on set for like, you know, their promos. So I brought my trick dogs. And they were really blown away by their skills. And then I was approached by Ron from DogTV, who's one of the founders, which was like, I didn't know who he was, but he kind of talked to me a little bit and he was like, you also have a great look for on camera. Like, have you done this before? And I was like, funny you should say that. I used to do industrials and commercials and I did SAG movies. And I was like, yeah, I would like, that's actually my dream is to eventually do something where I could have the dogs and be on camera again. And he was like, funny you should say that. We just moved to New York and we're looking for somebody. And Ron and I just hit it off because he's a dreamer, but he's not just a dreamer. He knows how to make it happen. And there's things that he makes happen that I just can't. I still to this day, I'm like, I manifest dreams. He manifests and makes them. Like, it's mind blowing. So the Dog Moms was a dream of mine for a while, to have a show that I could talk about, like, not just training, because if you look up dog stuff online, what are you going to find? Training.
Right.
I really wanted something that was like let's talk to you, the pet parent. Like everyone looks down at your dog like, oh, how cute. But like no one asks you, like, how are you? Are you doing okay?
Right.
Like, how are you as a pet parent? Are you feeling mom guilt, dog dad
Oh,
guilt? Like, are you feeling like you're doing something wrong or not enough, or you need help somewhere? Like mental health or pet care, I really wanted to have it a safe space that we could kind of dig deeper there. And my co-host Amber is like one of my best friends. So
oh,
that
yay.
was an easy sell because I was like, if it's going to be with anybody, it's got to be with Amber.
Oh, that is so great to be able to do something you love and share content that you're passionate about with your best friend. I
That's
mean,
right.
does it get much better than that?
It's great. We actually talked so much on the show. They were like, okay, try to keep it down to like 5 minutes.
Right. Right. We'll try. We'll try. I mean, with such a diverse career already, with so many incredible experiences, what do you see in the near future or on the horizon for you?
Well, I'm excited to say that the podcast has been renewed for a second season. So that's really great because we realized with the show, we love the show too. I think there'll be some future there, but we really realize is the content you're watching on the show makes a fantastic podcast. And you're able to reach more audiences that way, I think. And so that was like an easy, hit for us to kind of route and get a second season there. For myself, I'm really looking forward to doing more online coaching. So I have online classes and we're about to expand and drop some major trick classes for everybody. And I really like the idea of offering some online courses to people. And another area is that I want to do more TV and film, of course, obviously. Darby just booked a movie already this summer. And so that's a part of my life, definitely. But one thing I want to do is, like I said, this is my year of training. So I want to train my dogs more. I want to get into more like stage theatrical shows. I do a lot of frisbee and agility and all those fast things, but I really miss like training my dogs using props and like working on stage. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, you need to. AGT with Adrian right now has some Adrian and Hurricane, amazing dog routines. And what they do is very similar to like just what I love doing. It's getting out there, telling a story. And I think that's going to help me share my story of mental health and anti-bullying and really try to reach audiences with a clear message. I see that. I would love to, obviously get a little storefront for people that I could like donate a percentage to a rescue and just kind of keep growing my brand and being home with my family, as well as shooting for the stars in ways that I don't know if it's possible yet, but like I have my fingers crossed.
Oh, I love it. I love it to dream big. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
We get one life and life is too short. So let's make the most of it. Let's have some fun. Let's do what we love and love the people in our lives to the best of our ability. If you had to say, what your main mission is, I mean, obviously it's loving dogs and loving people and loving God. You've got all those down. I mean, what is your main message? Like, if you leave a mark on the industry, like, what's the mark you want to leave ultimately? Because we have challenges, right? As media professionals, we do have influence, but what do you want to see change? And what's the mark ultimately that you want to leave?
I think my first thing runs to mental health. And I think that that's such a big thing is that, I did a really great speech in Kentucky last year. I had everybody anonymously write down what their biggest struggle was on a piece of paper. And I opened them up, later on. I covered a few in my speech, but I opened them up later on. And guess what? We all had the same thing. And a lot of them said, comparing myself, imposter syndrome, not feeling I'm worth it, feeling I'm too old now, all these things. And I think we all battle with it. We're staring at each other, thinking these things, and you are too. And it's crazy. And so the biggest thing I just want to say is that if you could work on your mental health, if you could work on what's really important in your life, prioritize that, take care of yourself, but also like don't ever stop dreaming and chip away at it. Sometimes you're gonna have big moves and sometimes they're gonna be little. So I know that's not an easy way to summarize it, but my motto has been since 2010 when things were really crazy, take chances and make opportunities, because I feel that you got to take those risks. You got to take those chances that you otherwise would be like, there's no way. Take it and make opportunities, because I think people hope opportunities come their way when most of the time you really need to work so those opportunities come to you.
Yeah, It's wonderful advice, beautiful and so, so true. And also so, so good, Chrissy, so good that we're
Thank
going
you.
to actually take a break from this segment, right? And we get to take a few minutes and then come to part two with you, which is amazing. And you've got some tricks up your sleeve that you're going to share with our audience, right? How does that sound?
That sounds great. I do look forward to doing it with you guys.
Thanks so much for watching this Dog Mom News clip. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome and informative Dog Mom News content. And while you're at it, ring the bell so that you can find out about more content in real time. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, everyone.